What if love's true purpose wasn't to fill an empty space, but to awaken what's already within? Not the kind we see scripted on screens or written into love songs, but the quiet, enduring kind. The kind that doesn't always arrive with fireworks, but stays through the storm. The kind that asks for your growth, not your surrender. That doesn't just soothe you, but shapes you. You felt it. The ache of loving someone who didn't stay. The slow unraveling of identity after giving too much. Or maybe the quiet confusion of being loved by someone you don't fully trust. We all carry stories of love. Some loud, some silent, all of them sacred. But what if the way we've been taught to understand love is the very thing making us suffer? Today, we step into the stillness beneath all the noise. We won't be reading love poems or sharing pickup lines. No, we're doing something far more radical. We're going to explore love, not through fantasy or fear, but through the lens of Stoic philosophy, through the sharp clarity of Marcus Aurelius, through the unwavering discipline of Epictetus, through the wounded but wise voice of Seneca. Because the Stoics didn't run from love. They studied it. They honored it. But they never surrendered their peace to it. They believed love, like everything else in life, is not something to be owned, but something to be practiced. A mirror, a lesson, a form of virtue. If you've ever felt lost in love, if your heart is heavy with unspoken questions, or if you simply want to love more clearly, more freely, more courageously, this video is for you. We're going to walk together through ancient truths and modern wounds. You'll hear stories, insights, and reminders that might just change how you see yourself and the ones you hold dear. And if you find comfort or clarity in this journey, I invite you, quietly but sincerely, subscribe to Stoic now, to like this video, and share it with someone who's ready to love without losing themselves. Now take a breath, center your mind, and walk with me through this reflection. Because love, when seen clearly, is not bondage. It's a path to becoming. Let's begin. Number 1. What love looks like through the Stoic lens. To understand how the Stoics viewed love, we have to begin with a shift, a quiet, internal turning. A willingness to put aside what we think love is and instead ask, what does love become when it is stripped of need, of fear, of possession? To the Stoics, love was not weakness. It was not blindness. It was not the kind of love that overpowers reason or begs for permanence in a world where everything changes. No, for men like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, love was a practice, a virtue, of character, of clarity. It wasn't about losing control. It was about choosing to remain rooted, even while opening your heart. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled the world and still chose to wrestle with his own soul each night in a journal never meant to be read, wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." And in that simple last word, to love, you find the quiet nobility of Stoic affection. Love, in this view, was not chaotic. It was intentional. It was something you do, not just something you feel. Seneca, the sharp-tongued advisor of emperors, once wrote to a friend, "If you wish to be loved, love." But this wasn't a transaction, it was an invitation. A reminder that love begins not in desire, but in virtue. That to love someone rightly is to will the good of the other, not to wrap them around your own unmet needs. And Epictetus, once a slave, always free in mind, warned us gently but firmly, never say of anything, "I have lost it," but say, "I have given it back." He wasn't just talking about possessions. He was speaking of people, too. Lovers, friends, even those we thought would stay forever. To Epictetus, true love is free of grasping. It's rooted in acceptance, not in control. This is hard for modern hearts to grasp. In our world, love often arrives with strings attached. It comes in the form of validation, of clinging, of promises that tremble beneath the weight of our unspoken fears. We say we love, but we really mean, stay with me, complete me, fix me. But the Stoics would ask, can it still be called love if it is built on fear? They believed that love, like life itself, must be grounded in what is within our control. That means loving without demanding, giving without bargaining, caring without collapsing. It means that you don't wait for love to make you whole. You arrive whole, and from that fullness, you choose to share yourself. That is not cold. That is not detached. That is the deepest form of strength. Think of a man who walks beside his partner not because he needs her to carry him, but because he wants to carry something together. A woman who loves not to escape herself, but to meet the other in truth, without masks. That's Stoic love. And yet, even in this strength, there is tenderness. Marcus Aurelius lost children. He buried people he loved. He felt the sting of absence, just like you and I do. But he never used love as a shield against the truth of impermanence. He accepted the pain not as punishment, but as part of the fabric of existence. In one of his meditations, he reminded himself, "Do not hanker after what you don't have. Instead, fix your attentions on the finest and best that you have, and imagine how much you would long for these if they weren't in your possession." What he's saying is this: love the people you love as if they are already gone. Not because they are, yet, but because one day they will be. And in that awareness, we wake up. We cherish. We love more clearly, less desperately. That's not depressing. That's devotional. Love, to the Stoic, is not reckless passion. It's courageous presence. It's the art of showing up fully, without needing to own or control. It's knowing that every person you love is a gift, not a guarantee. That their presence in your life is something to honor, not to chain down. And perhaps most importantly, it's knowing that no matter how deep the love, your peace does not have to break with their departure. There is something haunting and powerful in that, because it means you are free. Free to love truly, and free to grieve without crumbling. Free to give without losing. Free to walk through life with an open hand and an open heart. This view of love doesn't lessen its value. It dignifies it. It takes love off the pedestal of fantasy and roots it into the soil of something far stronger: virtue, presence, truth. And if that sounds too still, too quiet, remember, the deepest rivers make the least noise. The Stoics were not opposed to love. They simply demanded that love be worthy of your soul, not just your hunger. So maybe love isn't chaos. Maybe love is composure. Maybe it's not about falling. Maybe it's about rising together. Number 2, love is not possession, it's appreciation. To hold someone tightly is not the same as holding them dearly. In our modern world, love is too often confused with ownership. We speak in terms of my partner, my relationship, as if the people we care for are assets to be managed, contained, or controlled. But the Stoics offer a far quieter, wiser way of seeing. Love is not about keeping, it's about cherishing. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." In that line lies the paradox of Stoic love: to care deeply and yet not cling, to pour your full heart into someone's presence, while also preparing your soul for their absence. That's not cold, that's clarity. Think about the moments that moved you most in love. Chances are, they weren't born from control. They came from a look freely given, a quiet act of kindness unprovoked, a presence that asked nothing in return. True intimacy isn't forged in the chains of expectation. It's carved in the space where both people are free to walk away, but choose to stay. This is the heart of Stoic appreciation. Seneca wrote, "He who receives a benefit with gratitude repays the first installment on his debt." In love, we're all receiving something: time, presence, tenderness, trust. And yet, how often do we forget that these are not entitlements? They are gifts. Not one of them is guaranteed tomorrow. A Stoic doesn't take love for granted. He doesn't confuse closeness with control. He knows that to love someone is to admire their freedom, not to fear it. I remember a story shared by a man I once mentored. He spoke of his partner, how he loved her laugh, the way she got quiet when she was thinking, how she filled their apartment with music and sunlight. But over time, fear crept in. What if she met someone else? What if she left? So he began to monitor, to question, to grip. And slowly, she began to retreat. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she no longer felt seen, only managed. That's what fear does when it dresses itself up as love. It suffocates what it claims to protect. The Stoic approach would have asked something else of him, not to tighten his grip, but to deepen his presence. To ask himself, do I love her for who she is, or for how she makes me feel safe? Epictetus would remind us that nothing external, not even the people we adore, belongs to us. He taught that our peace depends not on their staying, but on our understanding. That even if they go, What they gave us cannot be erased. The lesson, the memory, the invitation to grow. This is not defeat. It's refinement. The beauty of Stoic love is that it leaves room. Room for the other to breathe. Room for mystery, for evolution, for endings that do not destroy but redirect. It invites us to shift from the panic of possession to the quiet power of presence. In practice, this looks like choosing appreciation over assumption. It means waking each day and noticing, truly noticing, the person beside you. Not expecting them to remain unchanged, but witnessing them with gratitude, even as they evolve. It means saying thank you more than don't leave. It means asking, how can I serve this love? Instead of, how can I secure it? It also means knowing when to release. The Stoics believe that everything comes in its season and departs in its time. What leaves your life was never yours to control. The only thing you ever own is how you respond. And when love changes or fades, the Stoic does not collapse. He bows his head, places his hand on his heart, and says, thank you for what you gave me. I will carry it well. This is love without attachment. Not loveless, not indifferent, but purer, freer, stronger. Because when you love this way, the love you offer becomes a reflection of your highest self, not a transaction born of fear. You don't seek to trap the person. You seek to uplift them. You don't measure love by how long someone stays, but by how deeply you both grow while you're together. And that kind of love outlives romance. It becomes memory. It becomes strength. It becomes part of the architecture of your character. So the next time love enters your life, don't ask, how can I keep this? Ask, how can I honor this while it's here? Because love that's truly worthy doesn't need chains to survive. It needs freedom to bloom. Number 3, don't lose yourself in love. In the beginning, it feels noble, giving your all to someone. You accommodate their needs. You soften your voice. You rearrange your life like furniture, making space for love. At first, it feels generous. At first, it feels right. But somewhere along the way, if you're not careful, you'll glance in the mirror and wonder where you went. Stoicism teaches us to love with intention, but never at the cost of the self. Know first who you are, Epictetus said, and then adorn yourself accordingly. But in modern love, we're often taught the opposite. Become what they want, adapt endlessly, erase yourself gently until you vanish into their approval. That's not love. That's abandonment. And no matter how romantic the sacrifice may seem, the Stoics would remind you, virtue never demands the loss of dignity. In Stoic philosophy, the soul is sovereign. It cannot be traded for comfort or companionship. To lose your center, your values, your clarity, your quiet, is to lose the very thing that makes your love worth offering. If love costs you your essence, it's not love. It's dependency masquerading as devotion. Think of it this way. A candle that burns too close to another risks being extinguished by the other's flame. The Stoic doesn't snuff their own light just to keep someone warm. They tend it, guard it, and offer its warmth freely, but never foolishly. I once spoke with a woman who told me her story, not unlike yours or mine. She met someone who, for a while, felt like the world. Slowly, her mornings changed. She stopped writing. She stopped walking alone, stopped journaling, stopped listening to the small voice inside that once guided her. It wasn't dramatic. It was gradual, a soft erosion of self in the name of closeness. When it ended, she didn't just grieve the relationship. She grieved the version of herself she had silenced. The Stoics would call this the loss of autarkia, self-sufficiency, not in the sense of isolation, but in the sacred duty of self-possession. Marcus Aurelius believed that a man must stand straight, not be held straight. Love, in this sense, must not become a crutch. It must be a conscious act of two complete souls walking side by side, not leaning too heavily, not dragging one another through the mud. There's strength in that, not arrogance, not distance, but integrity. When we love without losing ourselves, something extraordinary happens. We actually offer more presence, more stability, more truth. Because our love no longer comes from a place of lack. It flows from a place of wholeness. So how do you know if you're losing yourself? Ask, have I stopped doing what brings me joy outside this person? Have I silenced my voice to maintain the peace? Do I feel anxious not just about losing them, but about losing who I am without them? These aren't signs of commitment. They're signs of collapse. Stoic love doesn't require performance. It invites authenticity. Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, be ready to stand firm in who you are, even when it doesn't please everyone, even the one you love. That might mean saying no. It might mean walking away, but it also might mean staying, with deeper roots, firmer boundaries, and a clearer sense of your own worth. Because the moment you abandon yourself, you abandon the very foundation on which any meaningful relationship must be built. This isn't just about romance, either. We lose ourselves in friendships, in families, in careers that demand we smile while quietly unraveling. But love, real love, in any form, must never cost you your soul. The Stoic practices of daily reflection, journaling, and solitude exist not to harden you, but to keep you from drifting. They tether you to yourself. They remind you of your values, your vision, your inner compass. And in love, that compass must not go quiet. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." That's the work, not just to love another, but to look within, consistently, honestly, courageously. To love from the overflow of knowing who you are, not the desperation of forgetting. Because love that survives, love that strengthens, is love that honors both the bond and the boundaries. If someone truly loves you, they won't ask you to shrink. They'll hold space for your growth, even when it challenges their comfort. They'll celebrate the parts of you that existed before them. And if you do the same for them, that's not just love, that's wisdom. So the next time you find yourself bending, stretching, softening beyond recognition in the name of love, pause. Return to yourself. Because the one thing the Stoics knew with certainty is this: you can give your heart without losing your spine. And any love that costs you your center is too expensive. Number 4, embrace love as a mirror to know yourself. Somewhere along the path of loving someone, something unexpected happens. Not always loud, not always easy. You begin to see yourself in ways you never have before. Not through the lens of fantasy, but through a sudden flash of discomfort, or a quiet ache that lingers after an argument, or in the way you react to something small, something trivial, and wonder, why did that shake me so deeply? This is where love stops being soft and starts becoming sacred. The Stoics believed that every challenge, every emotion, every disturbance of the soul was an invitation to know oneself more clearly. No man is free, Epictetus said, who is not master of himself. And love, real love, will expose the places where we are not yet free. Not because love is cruel, but because love is honest. To love is to enter a mirror, not one that flatters, one that reflects. And what it shows us, if we are willing to look, is not only the beauty we offer, but the fear we carry, the wounds we haven't healed, the stories we've told ourselves about who we must be in order to be worthy. In romantic love, these reflections appear most vividly. You may feel jealousy, insecurity, or a need for validation you thought you had outgrown. You may find yourself replaying past betrayals, mistrusting what has never betrayed you, needing words to be said not for comfort, but for survival. The Stoics would pause you there. They would say, don't run from that. Look into it. Because that discomfort, that's not just about them, it's about you. Seneca warned that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And so much of what love reveals is the prison we've built in our own minds. Fears of abandonment planted in childhood, wounds from old loves disguised as wisdom, expectations shaped not by truth, but by old survival patterns. When someone touches those places, they become the mirror, not the cause. And that's a powerful distinction. Because if you believe they are the source of your pain, you will try to change them, control them, argue with them. But if you understand they are only reflecting something you haven't yet healed, the work becomes internal, grounded, transformative. This is the Stoic gift within love, radical responsibility. Imagine two people in a relationship. One partner grows distant, quieter. The other panics, assumes betrayal, fears abandonment. But instead of accusing or spiraling, they journal. They reflect. They ask, what does this bring up in me? Is this reaction from this moment, or from old memories? Can I meet this moment with clarity rather than projection? This isn't detachment, it's discipline. And when you begin to view love this way, you stop outsourcing your peace. You start to see every emotional trigger as a teacher, every conflict as an invitation to grow, every difficult conversation as a test, not of the relationship, but of your maturity. That's not easy, but it's liberating. It means love doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. It means you don't need a partner to fix you. You need them to reflect you, and you must be brave enough to look. Marcus Aurelius journaled each night not to record victories, but to confront his own soul. What if you did the same in love? Not just asking whether they said the right thing, but whether you responded from wisdom. Not just whether they see you, but whether you see yourself clearly through them. It also means acknowledging that not every mirror will be kind. Some people will reflect back your worst instincts, not your highest self. They will awaken survival patterns, not serenity. And this, too, is a gift, because now you know what needs healing and what needs to be left behind. This is why the Stoics prized solitude, not as escape, but as a tool for self-clarity. They knew that unless you are grounded in yourself, love will become a battlefield of projection. You'll mistake affection for identity. You'll turn connection into dependency. You'll ask someone to carry wounds they never caused. So take time alone. Reflect. Write. Walk. Watch your emotions without reacting. When something hurts, ask why. When something soothes, ask what it speaks to inside you. Because the greatest love is not one where nothing is triggered, but one where everything that's triggered becomes a path to deeper presence. And when two people both do this, when love becomes a shared space of reflection, not blame, that's no longer romance. That's transformation. You begin to love not just the other person, but the parts of yourself you're finally seeing, finally healing, finally freeing. And that's where the soul grows. So if you're in love now, pause. Ask, what is this teaching me about myself? What has this person shown me? Not just about who they are, but about who I am becoming. And if you've lost love, the question remains. In their absence, what parts of yourself are coming back into view? What clarity has been returned to you? Because every person you love, every soul that touches yours, is a mirror, and the reflection is always worth observing, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Number 5, love of fate, amor fati. Not everything stays. Not everyone remains. And that, the Stoics would say, is not a tragedy, but the nature of life itself. There's a phrase etched deep into the heart of Stoic thought. 2 Latin words, simple and quietly powerful. Amor fati, love of fate. Not tolerate, not endure, but love. To welcome not only what is pleasant, but what is painful. To see every twist of fortune, every goodbye, every shattered hope, as part of a pattern larger than your personal desire. In love, this is the hardest lesson of all. When we fall for someone, our minds move quickly into futures, into stories, into imagined certainties. We cling, we plan, we attach our peace to their presence, our joy to their continued affection. And then, if they leave, or change, or betray, or die, we are left not only with pain, but confusion. Why did this happen? Marcus Aurelius would not have asked that question. He would have simply bowed his head and whispered, "It was meant to happen this way, not out of coldness, but out of clarity." He wrote, "Welcome whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" To the Stoics, fate isn't random cruelty. It is the sculptor of your soul. And love, in this view, is not something to be owned, but something to be honored, even when it ends. Imagine this. A man loves deeply. He gives fully. But one day she leaves. No warning. No clear reason. The silence that follows is unbearable. He tries to understand. Tries to rewind every moment, searching for a clue. But in time, through reflection, he begins to see. This isn't about punishment. It's about preparation. Because in her leaving, he meets himself. He learns what it means to let go without bitterness. To stand still in pain and choose not to harden. To mourn with grace, not rage. That's amor fati, not just accepting the wound, but bowing to its necessity. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because it must have a place in the greater design. The Stoics believed everything that happens had to happen exactly that way. Not a leaf falls, not a tear drops, without cause in the great unfolding of nature. That's not fatalism. It's freedom. Freedom from asking, why me? Freedom from obsessing, what if? Freedom from the illusion that we are owed a perfect ending. Seneca, who lost many he loved, said, We are born into a kingdom where whatever is not forbidden is compulsory. Meaning, you don't get to choose your trials, but you always choose how to meet them. Amor fati is choosing to meet loss not with despair, but with devotion. To the lesson, to the growth, to the person you're becoming because of it. In love, this means learning to say goodbye without losing your center. It means loving someone fully, knowing they are not yours to keep. It means walking away when you must, not because you no longer care, but because the path has changed and clinging would only cause suffering. I've seen people break after love ended, not because the person was their entire life, but because they believed they were supposed to stay. And when life interrupted the story, they couldn't forgive fate for turning the page too soon. But Stoicism asks us, what if that ending was the story? What if the lesson was never meant to last forever, but only long enough to awaken something in you? Amor fati teaches us to say, I didn't lose them. I was blessed to walk beside them for however long life allowed. That shift, from resentment to reverence, is everything. It doesn't mean we become numb. Stoicism never asks us to silence grief. Marcus Aurelius cried. Seneca mourned. Epictetus saw cruelty and suffering. But none of them let pain close their hearts. They let it open them to truth, to strength, to acceptance. When you love with amor fati, you stop fearing endings. You stop needing permanence. You become less frantic, more peaceful. You realize that even if love leaves, it has already done its work in you. And when you meet someone new, you no longer love with desperation. You love with gratitude. You no longer demand guarantees. You offer presence. You no longer say, stay with me so I don't fall. You say, walk with me and we'll rise. That's the power of loving fate. It turns heartbreak into a sacred right. It transforms loss into wisdom. And it reminds you that nothing real is ever truly lost. It becomes part of you. It shapes your heart into something more resilient, more refined, more ready. So the next time you find yourself whispering, why did they leave? Try whispering something else. Thank you for coming. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for being a part of my fate. Because amor fati isn't about denying the pain. It's about embracing it as part of the path that's carving you into the person you were always meant to be. Number 6. Love is service, not strategy. Modern love is full of tactics. Don't text first. Make them miss you. Pull away so they'll come closer. We've turned connection into a calculation, measuring what we give by what we get, confusing manipulation for intimacy. But love, real love, has no room for games. And the Stoics would have seen this clearly. When love becomes strategy, it stops being virtue. The Stoics taught that the highest aim of any action, yes, even in love, was to act from character, not craving. Not from ego, not from outcome, but from inner alignment. Do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter, Marcus Aurelius said. That wasn't about passivity. It was about power. The power of living from integrity. In love, this means you don't give in order to receive. You don't withhold affection to create scarcity. You don't love in order to be loved. You love because it is an expression of your nature. You give because that is who you choose to be. And that's hard, because ego always wants a return, always wants proof that we are winning the invisible game. But love isn't war. And if you're keeping score, you've already left the path of peace. Imagine this instead, a man who loves from strength, not from scarcity, who tells the truth without fear of losing someone, who acts kindly even when it's not reciprocated, not because he's weak, but because his values are not dependent on anyone else's behavior. This is Stoic love, not soft, but strong, not manipulative, but moral. Seneca wrote, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. That includes lovers, friends, family, strangers. Love, to the Stoic, is an arena for practicing the cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Wisdom means seeing people as they are, not through the fog of fantasy or fear. Justice means treating them fairly, even when emotions tempt us otherwise. Courage means being honest, even when silence would protect your pride. Temperance means loving with discipline, not desperation. And this isn't about perfection. It's about posture, a daily orientation toward love as service, not submission, not strategy, but service. The offering of presence, truth, and virtue, not for applause, but because it's the right thing to do. There's a woman I once counseled who had fallen into the usual pattern, trying to be less available so he'd want her more. She withheld. She pulled back. She posted stories for his attention. And though it worked for a while, she was exhausted. Because deep down, she didn't want to win. She wanted to be seen. She didn't want to play. She wanted to connect. When I asked her, what would it look like to simply be yourself, love openly, and let him respond however he will? She went silent. Because that kind of honesty terrifies the ego. But the Stoics would say, better to be rejected for your truth than adored for your performance. Because love that lasts is built on virtue, not vanity. When you love with virtue, you stop asking, what do I get from this? And start asking, what am I bringing to this? You stop worrying about whether the other person is matching your effort and start focusing on whether you're showing up as the kind of person you admire. That's the service, to love in a way that reflects who you are, not who you're trying to manipulate them into becoming. It also means walking away when needed, not out of anger, but out of integrity. The Stoic doesn't cling to relationships that require the betrayal of the self. To serve and love is not to suffer endlessly. It is to act from your values and release the rest. Epictetus said it simply. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And often, our opinion in love is, if they change, I'll be happy. If they stay, I'll be okay. If they do what I want, I'll feel safe. But that isn't love. That's a transaction. That's fear in disguise. So what does Stoic love look like, practically? It looks like telling someone how you feel without demanding they feel the same. It looks like setting boundaries without needing to punish or convince. It looks like showing up fully, not because it guarantees an outcome, but because it honors who you are. It looks like asking, how can I be of service in this love? And listening for the quiet, courageous answers. And sometimes, service means staying. Sometimes it means going. But always, it means refusing to turn love into a strategy to protect your ego. Because the highest form of love is not control. It's care. Pure, unflinching, undistracted by outcomes. So let the world play its games. Let others chase attention and retreat for power. But you take the Stoic path. You give without begging. You love without scheming. You serve without self-erasure. And in doing so, you become the kind of person love was always meant to meet. Number 7. Daily practices to deepen Stoic love. Love isn't kept alive by grand gestures. Not by spontaneous trips or cinematic confessions. Not even by the thrill of the beginning. What sustains love, what deepens it, is what you do in the quiet moments. When no one's watching. When it's inconvenient. When you're tired, distracted, or tempted to retreat. The Stoics knew that greatness was forged in the mundane. They believed the daily was sacred. That virtue isn't a destination, it's a discipline. And love, if it's to be virtuous, must be practiced every day. So how do you practice Stoic love? You begin in the morning. Before the world intrudes, sit with yourself. Ask, who do I love? And do I love them rightly? Not possessively, not conditionally, but rightly, with presence, with virtue, with clarity. Marcus Aurelius started each day preparing his mind for reality. That people may disappoint, that loss is inevitable, that he must not be surprised by pain. This wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. And when you prepare your heart, love becomes a conscious act, not a reactive impulse. So each morning, root yourself. Reflect on your intentions. Repeat a quiet mantra. Today I will love with presence, not pressure. With truth, not tactics. With virtue, not vanity. Then move into your day. And here, practice your awareness. When your partner is speaking, listen, not just to reply, but to understand. When you feel yourself judging or reacting, pause. Ask, is this from fear or from love? Is this my ego talking or my values? This is the Stoic work, not suppressing emotion, but understanding it. Not avoiding discomfort, but being master of your response. And if you find yourself spiraling into expectation, pause again. Journal. Ask, what story am I telling myself? What am I clinging to? Because so much of our suffering in love doesn't come from what's happening, but from what we expect, what we assume, what we demand. Epictetus taught that we must separate what is within our control from what is not. And the behavior of others, their moods, their past, their growth, will never be in our control. But your response, your presence, your integrity, that's always yours to choose. In the evening, make it your ritual to reflect. not just on what happened, but on who you were in love that day. Ask yourself, did I speak with kindness? Did I offer understanding? Did I act from love or from fear of not being loved? This daily examination isn't about guilt, it's about refinement. It's how the Stoics trained their soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote every night, not to impress, but to investigate. He wanted to know if he had lived according to his values. And so should we. If you made a mistake, acknowledge it gently. If you withdrew out of pride, return tomorrow with humility. If you loved well, celebrate it. Not to boost the ego, but to reinforce the path. This isn't just journaling. It's building the muscle of awareness. And in love, awareness is everything. Also, practice a more fatty, daily. Not just in heartbreak, but in the everyday frustrations. When your partner forgets something. When timing doesn't align. When feelings don't mirror yours. Say to yourself, this too belongs. This is part of the pattern. Because Stoic love doesn't demand perfection. It honors what is and brings virtue to the table, even when things are messy. You can also deepen love through acts of service, quiet, small, and sincere. Not for applause, not for leverage, but as a reflection of your character. To cook for someone without needing recognition. To forgive without waiting for an apology. To stay calm when chaos invites reaction. Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." So look for those moments, in traffic, in silence, in conflict. The moments when you can choose virtue instead of reaction. And lastly, keep solitude sacred. Spend time alone, not to escape love, but to return to it with more clarity. Walk, breathe, sit in silence. Remember who you are outside of others. Because if you lose that, you begin to ask from love what only the self can give. A Stoic in love is not distant, but they are rooted. And this rooting comes not from theory, but from practice. So begin each day with intention. End each night with reflection. Love not just in feeling, but in form, in rhythm, in ritual. Because love, like any flame, doesn't burn brighter through force. It lives through tending, through presence, through the quiet choices no one sees. That is Stoic love, not loud, but lasting. Not perfect, but practiced. And every day you walk that path, you do not just deepen your love, you elevate your soul. In the end, love is not meant to be a chain, not something that binds your spirit or cages your breath. It is not a contract of permanence, nor a guarantee of comfort. It is a mirror, a fire, a discipline, a grace. We began this journey asking, what if love isn't meant to complete you, but to reveal you? And now we've seen what that truly means. Love, through the Stoic lens, is not about control, it's about character. Not about how long it lasts, but how true it makes you. It is the teacher that reflects our shadows and asks us to stay seated. The mirror that doesn't flatter, but clarifies. It is the practice of seeing another clearly, without needing to possess. And seeing yourself honestly, without turning away. It doesn't demand that we win or be worshipped. It asks us to serve, not from weakness, but from wisdom. To give, not because we are empty, but because we are whole. To let go when fate calls us to, and not grow bitter, but braver. This is what it means to love stoically. To choose presence over possession, truth over tactics, reflection over reaction, and virtue over validation. It is not about never hurting. It is about loving with such clarity that even pain becomes a passage, not a prison. You love, not to be saved. You love, to be shaped, to know yourself more fully, to walk with someone, not to carry them or be carried, but to walk side by side with integrity. And when that walk ends, you don't curse the ground. You bow to the journey. You whisper a more fatty, and you continue on, stronger, clearer, more whole. That is the love that frees you. So if this video stirred something in you, if you saw yourself reflected in these words, if your heart feels both tender and strong right now, let that be a sign that your path is not behind you, that your power is not in who stays or leaves, but in who you are becoming, through every love, through every loss, through every choice to return to virtue. You are not here to play games. You are here to love wisely, fully, and with unwavering self-respect. So take what you felt today and make it part of your daily ritual. Reflect, write, love, let go, begin again. And if these words held value for you, if they brought you peace, clarity, or even just a moment of stillness, I invite you. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic now, leave a comment, share your story. Let this be not just a video, but a quiet gathering of kindred minds. Because sometimes, the greatest comfort in love is knowing we are not alone in our searching. And if you ever forget this truth, return here, to this quiet space, to this reminder. You can love with all your heart and still stand tall. You can let go and still be whole. You can choose virtue over fear. And in doing so, love will not break you. It will free you.